We have an important hearing today. It's entitled Examining Misconduct and Mismanagement at the National Park Service. In June, National Park Service Director Jarvis testified before this committee about the problems in sexual harassment throughout the Park Service. He suggested that things could potentially get worse before they got better, and boy, was he right. Things have gotten a lot worse. We've certainly been able to illuminate and find more problems that unfortunately have been festering and been in part of the system for far too long. Since Director Jarvis's testimony, numerous park employees from multiple parks have contacted the committee to describe patterns of misconduct at the Park Service. And today we're here to determine what the Park Service is doing to stop the harassment and find out why it keeps happening. There seems to be some patterns here that are just not anything that we should come close to tolerating. These incidents are happening at our country's most beloved parks. From Yellowstone to Yosemite and the Grand Canyon, these are some of the most visited and famous parks literally in the world. Unfortunately, they also face serious management challenges and allegations of disturbing misbehavior. It's difficult often to have these discussions in an open setting, and I warn the parents of young people who may be watching this. Some of this is going to be probably a little touchy and a little inappropriate, but it is what we do in this committee. We illuminate things. We shine the light on them. We are different in the United States of America, as I've said time and time again, in that we are self-critical. And we better come to a reality grip of what's happening, because far too often the people that are accused of this hideous behavior are simply promoted. Maybe they get a bonus, and they just move on. There doesn't seem to be a consequence. In Yosemite, at least 18 employees, 18, have come forward with allegations of harassment, bullying, and a hostile work environment. These employees lay the blame at the top on Dan Neubacher, the superintendent of Yosemite. The Park Service law enforcement official who investigated the allegation in Yosemite concluded this, quote, "The number of employees interviewed that described horrific working conditions lead us to believe that the environment is indeed toxic, hostile, repressive, and harassing," end quote. I don't know that it could get any worse than that, but that is his conclusion. These are the words of the Park Service's own internal investigators, not the committee staff, not the Office of the Inspector General. Currently, Superintendent Neubacher is still running Yosemite. He's still there. If this was the only park suffering from these problems, it would be enough of a serious concern. Yet recent allegations from America's first national park, Yellowstone, are truly beyond pale. They include sexual exploitation, intimidation, retaliation, and sexual harassment so depraved that it is disturbing even to discuss. With accusations so alarming, you would expect the Washington office to step in immediately and ensure that employees in Yellowstone are safe. While I appreciate the decision to call on the Inspector General for assistance, the Park Service must be more aggressive in protecting public service. We see this time and time again. It's not good enough to just say, we're going to ask the Inspector General to do it. The Park Service and the other agencies need to do their job and provide immediate relief, not punt it to somebody else to start doing it. And it's not good enough to just say, we're going to do a survey. I'm tired of hearing about surveys. There's a problem. In our June hearing, we heard about the serious problems at Grand Canyon and Canaveral National Parks. Since then, it was reported that the supervisors who allowed misconduct to occur in these parks were not just left unpunished, some were even promoted. What in the world does it take to get fired from the Park Service? In most of these cases that I've seen, it's not just one he said, she said. Here's a case we're going to talk about today. We got 18 people. 18. Who are talking about this. Leaders who fail in their obligations to protect the public or employees, they need to be fired. If they're not going to take action and they're not going to protect the employees of the United States of America, then they should leave. We had hoped our hearing with Director Jarvis would have prompted some change. Instead, it seems to have been treated merely as a speed bump. Based on what we've seen, the response to the crisis has been has been to require additional training for managers and to realign the EEO, the Equal Employment Opportunity Office, so it reports to Director Jarvis. Here's the problem with Director Jarvis, though. Of course, this is the same director who was removed from overseeing the Park Service's ethics program because his own integrity failures, including lying to the Secretary of Interior. I'm glad to see that Director Jarvis has announced his retirement. I think that should have happened quite some time ago. But it is kind of stunning that the Director of the Park Service is prohibited from administering an ethics program because of his own ethical problems. And then we wonder why we have a hard time implementing ethical reforms or just implementing things at the Park Service. How are line employees supposed to trust the EEO process when the person in charge hasn't followed the rules themselves? Something needs to change, and it needs to change fast. And I'd like to acknowledge we are joined today by 2 Park Service employees testifying in a whistleblower capacity. These brave employees have come forward despite the fear of possible retaliation. Now, I got to tell you, we will have nothing of that. Mr. Cummings and I, Democrats, Republicans, we are united in the idea that we will go to the ends of the earth to protect and support people who step up as whistleblowers. It takes a great deal of guts to come testify before this committee in a volunteer situation and explain what you've seen and heard firsthand. For that, we're exceptionally grateful. It's a difficult thing to do. I'm not sure I can't imagine you ever imagined in your life that you would be in this situation testifying before Congress. But as I said before, we take this responsibility very seriously. We can't fix it if we don't know precisely what it is. We have a pretty good indication of what it is, but to hear from the front lines what's really happening is a pivotal concern to us. We want to thank you for your courage, your willingness to step forward, and we expect candid answers. And we will do all we can to protect you from any sort of reprisals. So